most significant takeaway from the 4 healthcare forums that I attended this summer didn't have anything to do with the specific information that the senators and congressmen shared. That's all up in the air and presented as a sales pitch anyway. Rather, the value of such events lies in simply having a politician in the spotlight for an hour and a half, answering at least a handful of questions off the cuff. In the course of attempting to convey a point without a teleprompter, they're bound to resort to their actual thinking and personal experience.
I can't tell you how, insulting it is when I have a friend of mine call me from an emergency room. They're waiting in line for a terrible pain or something to get examined, and they can't get seen. They have to call me to come down to see them so they can actually get seen by a doctor, because they know if I show up, there'll be more attention given to them. How outrageous it is that you have to know somebody in order to get treated. How outrageous. Imagine if you're not somebody of any means and you're in a hospital waiting to be treated and someone of more means comes in. You're more important than me? I think that's morally outrageous. And that's the country we live in right now.
Patrick doesn't specify whether he's insulted that his friends are so inclined to use him, or on behalf of those people whom he helps his friends to displace in line, but at this point it's difficult to take umbrage against his characterization of our culture. After all, he's never known a world in which his wealth, position, and name didn't produce special treatment. Furthermore, he's so accustomed to open doors that imagining life without a Camelot card must evoke empathetic terror. Interacting with rich people can be a continual lesson in the profound effects of experience. I once remarked to a wealthy client that her great room wanted a piano, and she related to me her daydream of having her family gather together for sing-alongs, which, she said, she was sure my family did all the time. Oh, yes.
There's your punch. Now where's our song, my tiny kid?
On a beautiful day that I dream about, in a world I would love to see.
In his first community dinner with Senator Jack Reed, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse developed that perspective into a political philosophy.
The way I think of this is, nobody knows when they're born exactly how life is going to turn out for them. But if everybody when they're born had the chance to make a choice about what kind of world they want to be born into, my suspicion is that they would want to be born into a world in which if they got some terrible debilitating disease, if there was some problem of some kind, if a train went through their house, who knows, terrible things happen to people. Other people get very lucky, they're very successful, they do very well, that there'd be some mechanism so that the people who do very well share, because you don't know going in whether you're going to be a winner in life or whether you're going to be a loser, and so you try to make it fair for everybody.
There's no reason to doubt Whitehouse's sincerity. Like Kennedy, he's very wealthy. He's always been very wealthy. And he has no basis for understanding that life without wealth is not necessarily, or even usually, a long, rueful lament against the unfairness of it all. Consequently, he feels a moral responsibility to reorder the universe, that is, the federal government, so as to mitigate the fearful woe of poverty, or even just regularness. That doing so requires him to claim authority to allocate other people's money is, well, that's just the way the world works. Sitting next to Kennedy at his sheltered version of a healthcare town hall was Dr. Tsiongas, a familiar face on the Rhode Island left, and a representative of the type of person whom our congressional delegation would like to see managing public health and wealth.
One is you get everyone's premiums, all the dollars that are out there, and divided among the small business people and the unions and the state and the people who are paying out of their pocket, and try to move them into one place where we can all control where the money is, so we can make some better decisions about the system.
Dr. Tsiongas went into great detail. Rather than leaving the healthcare system up to the whims of supply and demand, a central health authority would figure out everything, from how much of each medical technology a given area needs, to what drugs should be prescribed, to how much doctors and nurses should receive for their services. It was a clear theme at the event that federal funds and regulation would shift money to people who knew how to spend it better than the patients whose health it affected. Kennedy put it more bluntly.
Do you trust the private insurance market? They are accountable to the stock market. They are accountable to a board of directors. The public option is accountable to the members of Congress. The public option is accountable to the public. That ultimately is where you have to decide whose confidence do you have more in terms of who you feel will be more responsive to your interests.
One suspects that Kennedy believes himself to be free of the corruption of self-interest, and therefore able to implement plans that will save Tiny Tim and the rest of the Cratchit children too. And then legislators can move on to solve the rest of the world's problems. Even if the fairy tale of the beneficent congressman were reality, they won't be the ones implementing the plans. Folks like Dr. Tsiongas will, folks like Donna Policastro, a special interest advocate for Rhode Island nurses.
And we have been working on this issue forever. And I'm very pleased that this issue has allowed many of us in this room who sort of live in parallel universes, who dialogue about different agendas, have brought us together. For example, SEIU is here, Ocean State Action is here. Many organizations are represented in this room, and this issue has brought us all together to the forefront.
She's referring, of course, to a union and a left-wing activist group, which highlights an important fact that we simply cannot ignore. Every promise to make the world a better place for the helpless masses is joined with a promise to do so by giving more money to a limited group, whom the legislators assume to be acting in the public interest essentially because they say so. The only rational answer to Congressman Kennedy's query about trusting government or insurance companies is neither. Bring payment back to the consumer. Let us make these decisions that are supposedly beyond our capacity to understand. Let us confer with our doctors. And if we get confused, we can just do what we've always done and head on down to the local pub to confer with trusted advisors. If, of course, we can concentrate amidst the spontaneous song and dance routine.